So now I'm going to mark my stringer against the wall here so that I can locate my spacer block appropriately on the wall, because I'm going to install my spacer board in between the wall and the stringer. And I need to know the bottom edge of my stringer. So I'm going to slide this over. When you're getting ready to mark underneath of your stringer board, make sure that your board is accurately set, and then mark a fine pencil line on the very underside of your stringer board. You want to be pretty accurate with this, as you're going to have to be accurate when you set your spacer block to that exact position. So typically when we install stairs, we're going to use screws and glue to prevent the stair from squeaking. For the purposes of our mock-up, we'll simply just be using screws without glue so that we can take it apart when we're done. So we've marked our spacer board location based on the bottom edge of our stringer, and we can set that in place here. Line it up with the marks that we made on the wall. And if you like, we can also mark the top edge so that it's easier to see, like so. The other thing that we're going to need to do before we get too far along here is install our fire blocking in these open bays here. This is a code issue which will prevent any kind of flame spread from rising up in between, from underneath the stair up into the joist or the stud bays above. So it would be a good idea to get that fire blocking in before we proceed any further with our spacer block or our stringer. So I'm going to take a scrap piece of 2x4, and the marks that I made on the top edge of my spacer block are going to be my guide, okay, to locate my fire blocking, and I'm simply going to mark the back edge at the face of the studs. So that I have two marks now which correspond to the proper angle of that spacer. I'm now going to mark the face of my fire block for my skill saw cut. Notice that that mark on the face is square. We're going to set our saw to a bevel to get the angle, but the cross to cut the face of the board will be a square cut. So the quick and easy method for determining the angle, the bevel angle of that line there, to know how to set the bevel of our saw, is to take your speed square, set it on the edge of your board, your 2x4 fire block, line the back edge of your square up with the line that you marked, and then you can simply just read, the bottom scale here is angles in degrees. In this case I'm reading approximately 37 degrees. So that would be the angle that I'm going to set the bevel of my worm drive saw. So the mathematical way to determine the angle of our stair is to enter in our unit rise and unit run into our calculator and then find out what the pitch is. So we'll type in our unit rise first, which is 7 inch 9/16, and we'll tell it that is our rise. And 10 inch, hit the run button, that's our unit run. And then if we hit the pitch button here, that will give us our stair angle, 37.1 degrees. So you can see we were pretty close with our speed square. So now we need to set the bevel of our saw, which is controlled right here on this particular saw. So I'm going to loosen that up. I'm going to bevel it over till I get to approximately 37 degrees, which is about right there. Lock it down. So that is setting the bevel of my saw to match the bevel of my cut that I want to make. You'll notice that there's only 5-degree increments on the bevel of the saw. Just get as close as you can to your 37 degrees, which would be halfway between the 35 and the 40 degree mark. We also want to pay attention to which way we enter the direction that we enter the wood. In this case, since my saw is beveled this way, I want to enter from this side. If I enter from this side, okay, I'm going to cut the wrong way. So check that before you make your cut. We're going to start from this side. When I make a parallelogram cut on a piece of fire blocking, I'm going to be entering the board from the same side relative to the board, meaning I don't flip the board around. I simply cut the first side, then shift my saw over to the other end and make the same cut from the same side of the board. That will give me a parallelogram cut. So I'm going to put my fire block behind my spacer block. That's the top edge of my spacer. I'll flush that up with the top edge of my fire block and secure it in place. Like so. We'll also have the fire block up here and even a little bit down here. So now we're finally ready to attach our spacer block against our wall. So I'm going to line it up with my bottom marks from my stringer. And we are now ready to start installing our stringers and our treads and risers.